Hi, I'm Michelle Craddock, the Associate Equipping Minister here at Oak Hills Church, and our parent ministry is committed to helping equip our parents to be the primary spiritual influence in their child's life. And today we're here with Brett and Erin Kunkle from Maven, and we're going to talk more specifically about the subject of gender identity. So Brett and Erin, can you help us understand a couple things? First, can you define what is gender identity and why is it so important for parents to be equipped on how to navigate this subject?
Well, I'm glad actually you're starting with definitions, because I think that is where, as parents, we need to start defining the terms and figuring out how the culture is defining some of these words that maybe some of us aren't used to or are new to us. So starting with definitions, I think it's important to distinguish. The culture is dividing now these two things, sex and gender. And so sex being our biological makeup, either male or female, the way we're born. It's usually apparent from the beginning, and that's our sex, male or female. Now gender is now divided, and gender is defined through our psychology, not our biology. So our psychology being how we identify ourselves, and then how we present ourselves to the world. And so sex being biology, gender being psychology. And now those two terms were used to be connected through pretty much all human history. But now there has been this shift in thinking that we can separate those two things.
There's a third term that we need to define, and that is the term gender dysphoria. And what happens when your biology doesn't match up with your psychology, then you experience this third thing, gender dysphoria. And so this is where we have people who say, hey, I'm a man, but I feel like a woman trapped in a man's body. And gender dysphoria is some kind of emotional or psychological discomfort that people have with their biological sex. They don't feel like they fit with their biological sex. And so they experience this dysphoria. Now, there's a fourth term that's important to understand as well, because what our culture is saying now is that if you experience gender dysphoria, then that means you're this fourth thing. You're not a male, you're not a female, you are what you feel you are. And so you are a transgender individual. And a transgender individual they are what they claim to be. They are what they feel like. They are what they desire to be. And so this is where we get the phrase in the culture, trans women are women. When it turns out they're actually biological men who are attempting to become women. And so this is, we need to be able to define these terms to navigate this conversation. And here is the important question that all of us must ask. Why should we disconnect our psychology from our biology? Because we have a lot of examples where we don't do that. So think about race. What if I felt like I was a different race? Would people then validate that and say, well, okay, if that's how you feel, then you're that kind of race? No, that's determined by your biology. Or how about your age? I mean, I like to think I'm a 25-year-old young man, right? But my biology dictates that my desires or my feelings just aren't true. Or take the anorexic. What's going on? Biology doesn't match psychology. A young girl who's 90 pounds and is struggling with anorexia looks in the mirror and she feels like she's overweight. Well, the doctor doesn't say, well, if you feel overweight, then let's put you on a diet. No, he says your psychology doesn't match your biology. And what we've done in the culture is pulled those things apart when the psychology and biology need to be put back together.
So you're talking about how they really feel this certain way, and so they believe it. So we obviously, when we approach these conversations, we have to approach them with sensitivity too. So a lot of people have a hard time engaging others in this conversation and speaking truth to them because they're afraid that maybe they are being too unloving or too affirming. So how can we stand for truth without also being offensive?
Yeah, I think we first need to define what it means to be loving, right? Because our culture gives us a definition. To love someone means that you affirm them and you accept them. And that certainly can be part of our definition of love, but that's not the entire definition. I mean, just imagine if Erin and I had that kind of definition in our relationship as a married couple, right? If I said, honey, if you love me, then that means you affirm me. You affirm all that I do. I mean, how is that going to work out in a marriage, right? And so I see a cute woman who I think, I'd like to date her too. And I say, hey, Erin, I'm going to ask her out on a date. You okay with that? Because if you love me, you'll accept and affirm me, right? Well, no, in that situation, it would be clear to us that love requires not affirmation. It requires speaking some hard truths and actually disagreeing with me, saying, honey, if you do that, you're actually going to damage our relationship. And so it might not feel very affirming. It might not feel loving. But what it tells us is that our definition of love has to go deeper. Love is a commitment to the good of someone else as far as we can obtain it. And so I love Erin, she loves me. That means, hey, sometimes it's going to feel warm and fuzzy. Sometimes it's going to be tender and wonderful and just gracious and kind. Other times, because we are committed to each other's good, we may have to speak the truth. And I might not actually even like it. I may first be offended by it. It actually doesn't mean that it's not loving. My feelings don't determine whether or not it was loving or not, because the act of love is an objective thing. And so I think we first have to define love. So what that does is it helps us to expand our definition of love. Love is gracious and kind and warm. Love is also truthful. Love is courageous. Love sometimes is confrontive. And so we need to bring those together when we're talking with individuals who might be struggling with this.
Yeah, I think as parent, I mean, this is for parents. I think parents understand this. Like, we understand this deep understanding of love with our children. And as parents, we love our kids and we want their good. And that doesn't always necessarily mean their happiness in the moment, but we want their good. And that's why we do things for their good, because we love them. And so I think sometimes the culture, it tries to push us and nudge us in a way towards a love that actually is real shallow. And that we love our friends and we love our neighbors just by being affirming of everything. But really, as parents, we understand when you love someone deeply, it's connected with the truth. It's connected with good. And so, of course, we don't want to add offense or be rude or be a jerk and things like that. And that goes into parenting too, right? We can parent with gentleness and respect, but also with truth. And so that's that. Just even thinking about how we view love and how American culture views love, and then how we understand love through scripture, but also just through reality as we experience in marriage and in parenting is a good way to even start about thinking about how we love people through these things.
And there's going to be different contexts that will inform what love looks like. So if it's my neighbor who's struggling and maybe they want to transition, because of kind of the relationship I have with my neighbor, it's going to probably be more loving and patient and kind and understanding. If it has to do with a particular law that's being brought by the state or the federal government, well, there might be a little more fight and struggle there, realizing that this single law can impact thousands and thousands of lives, and so there's maybe a little more fight. If it's my own 14-year-old kid who's wants to transition, well, there it's going to be more of a fight. I'm going to do everything I can because God has entrusted me with that child, and I have strong obligations to that child, so I'm going to fight for that child. And that might mean some hard calls, removing them from situations that are influencing them negatively, doing things that they don't like because I know there's a greater good. And so we have to pay attention to the context, and that will help inform how we go about loving. I think love can take on lots of different textures and methods and all kinds of things that we can do to love people.
Yeah. So speaking of fighting for your family, so there are very likely some families that are watching this and listening to this that have maybe just been hit with some news from their child, that maybe their child feels a certain way, or is all of a sudden their son is dating another boy and they've just broken the news. What's some encouragement and good next steps with resources that parents can take after hearing that news from their child?
Oh, okay, I'll go first. Well, I guess first of all, I mean, hopefully anyone listening to this would have this community, Oak Hills Church, because you need a community around you to walk through difficult things. So that one thing I would say is, seek help. Seek a community of people who will pray with you, who will walk with you through it. I think, I'm just thinking about what he was saying about fighting for our kids. And I would encourage you as a parent to really fight for your kid, to fight for truth, and start looking at the areas in your child's life where maybe they're being lied to about what the good life is, about what they should find their identity in, about what's the truth about our sexuality. And if they are hearing lies from certain areas, I would remove them from those places. So if social media, if you have a teenage girl and she's on social media, I can tell you right now that is having a big influence on her.
So just that, take her off?
So that might be something that you have to remove. And really thinking about your child is at stake. I wouldn't look at it as a small thing. I would look at this as a big thing. Being drastic in some way, that might be drastic, right? I mean, we know we have 5 children ourselves, and we know even times where we've taken a break from phones for a vacation or something else. We understand that our kids don't praise us. Thank you, Mom and Dad, for taking this thing away from us, But we know better what is for their good. And so as a parent, if you see there are things that are problems in your child's life, we have to have the courage to do what's right, to do what is good for them. And so I would start looking around and saying, okay, what is influencing them, and maybe twisting their view of what is right, of what is good, of what is true.
Yeah, and so this is where parents need to educate themselves on this particular issue. If you have a child who is experiencing gender dysphoria or wants to transition, you need to go do your homework. There are a number of good books out there. There's a good book by Abigail Schreier entitled Irreversible Damage that really focuses on the damage that is being done to our young people. Because we talk about, is social media, taking away their social media, that seems drastic. Well, it only seems drastic in a society where we've let all of our kids be on social media. But when you read about what is happening to young kids, what medical doctors are doing, so we are injecting our kids with testosterone and estrogen, which has all kinds of side effects. When a young girl is injecting herself with testosterone that's not naturally supposed to be there are side effects, major side effects. We are taking and literally chopping off healthy body parts, right, on men and women. We are doing things that will lead to sterilization in these kids. And so there is much damage that's done. And so educate yourself so that you know what's going on, because these ideas have consequences. And if these ideas are false, they're not true to reality, then they are going to have victims. These ideas will create victims. And so we are allowing our kids to be victimized by this. So there are all kinds of good resources out there. Our organization, Maven, exists to come alongside parents and the church to equip them on this. And so people can go to our website, which is maventruth.com, and find more resources. And I would say you've got to educate yourself so that you know the truth, and then you're equipped with truth and knowledge that will help you navigate this issue with your family.
And you guys also have a Maven Parent podcast that really digs deep into a lot of these subjects, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, you can find the Maven Parent podcast on any podcast platform. And what we try to do in that is really come alongside parents to say, hey, here's a contemporary challenge, or here's an issue in parenting. How do we first think about it biblically? What wisdom does Scripture have? What knowledge does Scripture have that helps us then to take the next steps? Then what are the practical steps? And what you discover is that for parenting, Scripture gives us huge insight, and it also gives us so much practical things that we can do.
Brett and Erin, thank you so much for coming alongside us and equipping our parents on how to engage culture with the hope of Jesus. So if you are interested in watching our full version of our parent talk with Brett and Erin, then you can head over to our Oak Hills Church YouTube page and you can get the full version there. Thank you so much for watching.